Hey guys, today in this tutorial I'm just going to show you how to create a reusable projectile blueprint and a projectile firing mechanic. It can be used by your player, it can be used by other players, it can be easily implemented into their blueprints, it can be implemented into the AI blueprints really easily as well, and all the characters in the game that use your projectile they'll all be using the same logic, so it'll be easier to change the logic of that projectile if you want to change the look or how it behaves or whatever, and it'll be consistent across your game without you needing to go into each individual blueprint of each enemy that uses it and etc. and change it all. And it doesn't use inheritance either, so it's really easy to add to new actors and to just give them the ability. It's going to be very similar to the modular health component video that I shot a while ago. Have a look at that if you're interested. Let's get started. I'll try to do this one really quickly. It's not too hard. So if you right click in your content browser, by the way, this is just an empty map. I've just gone new level, default like that, and then I've just scaled the floor up to 5, and I've just got some random stuff in here from the last couple of tutorials. Just ignore that. Just right click in your content browser, go new folder, and call this, what should we call it? Projectile BP, creative name. And let's add a blueprint class of type actor, and we'll just call this my projectile. So that'll be our projectile, and we'll also create a new, we'll deal with this first. So this is my projectile, and inside of this, go add component, static mesh. That can just be called static mesh, and we'll just make that a material sphere, just like that, of scale 0.5. Scale 0.5. Simple as that, and that's just going to simulate physics, and the simulation is going to generate hit events. Piece of cake. And let's just go into the event graph, select your static mesh, right click in the event graph, type in begin, no, not begin, overlap, hit event, add on component hit, and when it hits something, we're gonna just destroy it. Destroy component, and the component that we're going to destroy is just the static mesh. Actually, you know what? Let's not destroy the component. Let's destroy ourselves. Destroy actor self, just like that. And just for a bit of feedback, spawn emitter at location, and that's just going to be an explosion, and the location is going to be, can we go normal impulse? No, we can't. What if we break the hit? Let's say break hit result, the location of the explosion is going to be the impact point of the hit. Boom, easy as that. Okay, so let's just drop one of those in the world and just watch him explode. Boom, easy. Okay, so that's the thing that we're going to be spawning. He looks a little bit big still, so let's just scale him down just a little bit. This stuff really doesn't matter too much, but let's just do it anyway. And now we can get started. So now that we've got a very simple projectile, we're going to add a projectile spawning component. So the way that we want to do this, instead of going into the third person BP and building it in there, because if we build it in there, we'll need to copy it to the AI. So what we're going to do is, where's our folder gone? What did I call it? Projectile BP. Okay, in here we're going to go new blueprint class, and we're going to go actor component, and this is going to be called projectile spawning ability, like that. And the idea is, I called it ability because it's an ability that can be added to any actor or character, and then it can be used from there. So let's add a new custom event in here, and this is going to be called spawn projectile at target, just like that. And the way this is going to look is it's going to be spawn actor from class. The actor is my projectile, like that. We're going to set its velocity. Set velocity of the static mesh, just like that. The static mesh was it's the only part of the actual actor. It's just the physics cube, the one that was generating the hit events. We have an option for a velocity down here, so what we might do, So let's for the transform, let's say get world transform, except we'll leave that empty for now. Now this is going to have a bunch of errors, and that's okay. So we need to set up a couple of things here. So this is going to be used by a character, and we're going to spawn a projectile. We need a spot to spawn the projectile from, so we need a spawn point. So let's go up to variables and we'll go spawn point up there like that. And this can be a component, oops. This can be of type actor component object reference like that. So we'll hook that up into there. Get world. Why isn't that working? Get world, get transform. Huh. What type did I make that? App to component. Maybe I need to make it primitive component. Can I say get world transform? Okay, I can get world transform now. So that was just I've created a new variable called spawn point, which is a primitive component, and we're going to set that up in the blueprint that's going to be using this ability. So we're spawning from there, then we're setting a velocity. Now the velocity that we're going to set it to is going to be towards a target. So to get the direction towards the target, we're going to say unit direction vector from a particular point to a particular point. Now the from is going to be the spawn point like this. We're going to break the transform and get the location of the spawn point, and the to is going to be the location of the target. So what we might do is whenever we spawn a projectile, let's add a input for a target in there. So what we can do is we can promote this to a variable and just call this target location like that. If this is confusing, don't worry, because it'll make sense in a second when we actually put this into practice. So up here we're going to set the target location like that, and we're just going to hook that into there like that. Okay, now that's only a unit direction vector. We need to actually give that a velocity. So down here, promote this to a variable, and we'll call this projectile, not velocity, we'll go speed, projectile speed. So we're multiplying the unit vector, the unit direction vector, by a float. So this will be the new speed of the projectile, and then that's going to result in a vector of this particular direction at this particular magnitude, which is going to be the velocity. Okay, and let's default that to, I don't know, like 1000 or something, so it's quite slow. Okay, so spawn projectile at target. I think that'll do. Let's just add some feedback. So we'll say spawn sound at location, and that can just be, I think I've got a laser sound actually. Pew! Let's use that. And the location is going to be get world transform with the spawn point, and then plug the location into there like that. Okie dokie. So that's a projectile, that's some projectile spawning logic. Now we just need to give this ability to a character. So what we'll do, let's give it to the player character to start with. So go third person BP blueprints, open up your player character. Just ignore all of this, this is from other tutorials. Let's add an input. So if we just go input right mouse like that, we're going to spawn a projectile. Now to spawn a projectile, we need to go up here to components, and we're going to say, we're going to give our character the projectile spawning ability, just like that. And then down here, we're going to drag off of this, and we're going to say spawn projectile at target, just like that. And now the target location, the way that we might get our target location is if we look at our follow camera, the target location, well, the follow camera, sorry, moves with your mouse around whichever way your mouse is facing. So what we might do is we might just set our target location as the forward vector of this camera, so it'll shoot whichever way the camera is facing. So if we get our follow camera like that, and we'll say get forward vector. Now that'll be of length 1, and now this thing is how far behind our character. What's the camera boom doing? So the target arm length is 300. So let's just get the forward vector and then multiply that by a float, and we'll just multiply that by I guess 300. I suppose it doesn't really matter, does it? Why don't we just leave it like that? So we need the forward vector of our character. Oh, hang on. Alright, so we'll go times by float. We'll go by 500 so that it's more than the length of the camera boom. And then we'll add that to our location. So we'll say get add vector. And we'll say get actor, get actor location of self. And then we'll add that in here. So we'll get the location of ourself and we'll add the forward vector of whichever way the camera is facing, and that's the direction that we're going to fire in. Okay, cool. And that's going to happen off of the right mouse. Now before this will work, we need to set up the spawn point and everything like that, because at the moment in here, when this fires, it doesn't know what the spawn point is, and it doesn't know the projectile speed. So to do that, let's just create an event in here, and we'll call this setup projectile ability. And in this event, we're going to attach an input for everything that must be set up before this to work. So if you grab your spawn point and alt drag that into the event graph, we can put that in there, and we'll need a projectile speed as well. Just like that. And then drag both of these into the event node like that, because we need to make sure that both of those are set up before this will work. So now if we go into our third person player and go into the construction script, we can grab our projectile spawning ability and say setup. Setup projectile ability. Like that. Now let's give him a spawn point. So let's say we add a scene component like that. We'll call this spawn point even. Oh, we've already got one. That must have been from another tutorial. Let's just call this my spawn point. My spawn point. I must have already made a projectile tutorial somewhere along the line. And we're going to hook that up to probably the follow camera, just like the other one. So now we'll put that a little bit in front like that. But this is going to follow the camera, so if you rotate the camera around this way, this is also going to rotate around behind the player like that, so it'll shoot in whichever way the player is facing. Where we put the last one, just out of curiosity, up at his face. So yeah, we'll put this one up at his face as well. That's a good idea. Looks like he's shooting lasers out of his eyes. So in our construction script of the third person character, we now have a spawn point, my spawn point, and that is not going to let me attach that into there, and that's okay. So what we might do, if we go back into here, what if we go get world transform, target is scene component, and then we just promote that to a variable, and we'll call this one my spawn point. And what type is that, just out of curiosity? Scene component. Huh. Okay, and then let's delete the old one. Oh, that's because it's in use. We need to replace that there. And we need to replace it over here as well with my spawn point. Okay, that should work if I hit compile. Okay, and then we can delete spawn point. And it's still in use, and that's because it's up here. So we'll delete that on the event thing as well, and we'll drag in my spawn point and hook that up like that, and then attach that into there, and then we can delete spawn point. Okay, beautiful. Now will you work? Now you'll work. Okay. So the component, my spawn point here, needs to be scene component. It can't be primitive component. I wonder why, because I tried to do this before and it wouldn't let me get the world transform. Maybe I used the wrong type. Oh well, these things happen. Now we need to give him a projectile speed, so we can promote that to a variable as well. call this projectile speed. Compile and save. Now that should be all set up, and the ability should be good to use. So if we jump in the map and I'm running around, if I right click, there we go, we're dropping projectiles everywhere. They don't have any velocity, and the reason is because we didn't set a velocity here, so we can set that to maybe 2000, and now they'll launch forward with a velocity of 2000. Boom. Over there, over there. You can't see it too well because it's spawning in front of his face, but that's definitely working. What if we, should we give him a first person camera? No, I can't be bothered. You can see that that's working, right? Like if I angle it up like that, it sends it across the map a lot higher, and it's still got gravity to it, so you can launch it straight into the ground. Alright, so the next thing that we'll do is we'll set this up for an AI character so that we can watch some AI use it. So to do that, it's the exact same thing. It's actually quite easy because now that we've got this set up, we don't have to worry about copying this code and adapting it to something else. I'll show you what we'll do. It's really simple. So if we go into our Projectile BP folder, create a new blueprint class of type character, and just call this Projectile Shooting AI BP, and just open that up. Let's give him a, should we give him a skeletal mesh? Yeah, let's give him a skeletal mesh, and that can be SK mannequin. The anim class can just be third person anim BP like that. Just bring him down so that he kind of fits the thing. If you hold Alt H like that, you can check that his feet are actually along the ground like that. That looks pretty good to me. And then Alt G, so he's back like that, and you just need to rotate him so that his forward vector, so that he's facing the way that that arrow faces, because that's the way that he's going to be moving. That's his forward X direction vector. Alright, so now that we've got that, he's got his animation set up. Let's give him the projectile spawning ability. So add component, go projectile spawning ability like that. Go into his construction script, drag that in, type in setup, give him a projectile speed, projectile speed, my spawn point, we need to give him a spawn point, so we'll go add component and then type in scene component and then call this spawn point. And the spawn point we might, oh, he's already had a bloody mesh there and we just gave him another one. That's alright. So attach that to this mesh, and we might just drag that out in front of him like that, so it's up at his face or something. Now we can control drag, hook that up into there like that, and now we just need to tell him how to use it. So if we say on begin play, we could say, do we have a focus node? Set actor rotation. We'll just get him to look at our player character and just constantly spawn projectiles at him. So we'll say get actor rotation, and we'll say find look at rotation. The start can be our location, so get actor location of self, and the target we'll say get player character, and then get actor location. That's the target, but we don't want him to update anything apart from his yaw, so he'll only rotate horizontally and he won't pitch up and down and look like a psycho. So this can be part of a timeline as well, so we'll go in timeline and just leave that called nothing because it doesn't really matter. We're going to collapse all of this, and this is just going to be a node like that, and this is just going to say update rotation to look at player like that. And this timeline, we're going to double click that, make sure that's looping, and now this is just going to constantly fire, so he's going to constantly be rotating to look at the player like that. And while he's looking at the player, let's have a sequence node in here, and then down here we'll have a delay, and this can be a variable called fire rate like that. and that can default to say, I don't know, like 3 seconds or something. And then every 3 seconds, we're going to grab our projectile spawning ability, and we're going to say spawn projectile at target. Just like that. And now the target location, you guessed it, get player character, and get actor location. Okay, and now this guy's set up with that projectile ability. So if we just jump in the game and put him in, he's going to start looking at us and shooting at us. Check that out. And his projectiles don't have any speed, because we forgot to set the speed again. So let's just go back into here. Projectile speed, set that to maybe 2500. Close that down. Beautiful. There we go. He's staring at us and shooting bombs at us. Excellent. And while he's doing that, you could have him moving around too. So like you could you've got update rotation to look at player. This here, we can collapse this and call this fire projectiles periodically, like that. And then we can add another one, and this one could be a delay again, and maybe we'll just set that to like I don't know, like 4 seconds, and this one can be AI move to, and we'll get him to move to a location around the player every couple of seconds. So we'll say self as that. The destination, we can say get random point in navigable radius, I guess is the one we want. The origin, we can say get actor location of self. The radius can be sorry, no, we don't want that to be the origin. We'll say get actor location, yes, but we don't want it to be of self. We want it to be the player character. Get player character like that. The radius can be I don't know, 750 or something like that. And that's all good. So every 4 seconds we'll move to a new point near the player character. So we can call this move near player. This is bloody turning into an AI tutorial, not a friggin' projectile spawning tutorial. But I mean, this is just simple AI. Like, you'll use stuff like this in games all the time if you're doing like third-person combat games or first-person combat games. So it's good to do it. We just need to add in a nav mesh. So we'll go nav mesh bounds volume like that. Tap P so that you can see the green where it's working, and just drag that over the whole map. Tap P again, get rid of that. Alright, let's go. Come on, do your thing, man. There he is. Look at him go. So he's going to move every 4 seconds to a new random position. And he's constantly shooting at us. Now, he's like moonwalking because he's trying to look at us and he's trying to move to a location. If you want him to have a smooth movement, you can just set up a blend space for him. You need like side walking animations and backward walking animations. It's actually pretty easy to do. Just search in Unreal Engine 2D blend space and there'll be a tutorial for that somewhere. But that's this. So you can hook that up to AI like easy as hell. If you had another AI, like you can do the same thing. Like you just give him the component and he can use the ability. You just need to tell him how to use it. So in here, like you could create other abilities as well. Like instead of just spawning a projectile, maybe you want to have another one. So let's say like you spawn a barrage, and in this one here, you could have like a maybe even you could use this event. So if we had spawn projectile at target there like that, and the target location I guess can come from the event there. You could spawn a projectile, then you could have a delay like this, and then what we could do is we could say, yeah, you know what, let's go ahead and let's just do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to spawn a bunch of projectiles in a very short amount of time. So we're going to need a counter. So we'll say counter like that, type integer, and let's duplicate that and say barrage repetitions. So we're going to fire a projectile, we're going to wait a barrage interval. Fire a projectile, wait a barrage interval, and then check, have we reached the number of barrage repetitions? So integer less than, is the counter less than the number of barrage repetitions? I need to give this a better name because that's not a very good name. Total barrage no. Yeah, well look, we'll just call it total barrage repetitions, because this is the number of repetitions that the player or the AI can do, and the counter is how many that they've done so far. So if the counter is less than the total number that they can do, is what we're going to do is we're going to add a reroute node up here, and we're going to spawn another one, and we're going to keep going. But before we keep going, we need to increment integer, and the integer that we're incrementing to the next number is the counter, like that. But when this event starts, is we need to set the counter to 0, like that. So we activate the spawn barrage ability, set the counter to 0, spawn a projectile, wait like 0.2 seconds, check that we can still fire more projectiles. Let's say the total barrage repetitions is like 10. Check that we can still fire more, increment the counter, and then just restart the loop. So let's just tidy this up a little bit, just like that. And then when the counter is not less than the total, it'll stop firing. So that's actually already done, I think. Yeah, cool. So set up projectile ability up here. Let's set up the total barrage repetitions as well, like that. And we'll set up the barrage interval too. Okay, that should be all good. So now in this AI blueprint, let's say instead of so let's go up into the construction script. Let's say he can fire maybe 10 total repetitions of a barrage, and the interval is 0.08 seconds between each one. And maybe let's just crank up his projectile speed to like 3,500 so they don't collide with each other, because they might. Let's make that 0.12. So it'll take about a second for him to fire them all. Maybe a little bit longer. Maybe let's roll with 0.2. 5 a second. Sounds pretty good. Okay, so now instead of fire projectiles periodically, let's just alt click that to get rid of that. We're going to say every, I don't know, let's say every like 5 seconds or something, we're going to grab our projectile spawning ability, and we're going to say spawn barrage. Just like that. And the location is just going to be the get player character actor location, just like that. And then we can collapse this, and we can just call that spawn barrage periodically. By the way, if you're using an AI behavior tree, these could actually be tasks in a behavior tree. So at the moment, you'd need to copy this bit here for each AI, but you could actually set this up in a behavior tree so that it's entirely reusable, which I might show you how to do in another video, but not today. Alright, so here we go. We wait 5 seconds. Check that out. Now what you'll notice is all those projectiles are spawning at the same location, which isn't really realistic, but I mean it works. But it's because we've given it a location to start with, and then he's spawning all of his projectiles at that location instead of updating it as he goes. So what you could do is, instead of having target location there like that, what we could do is we could say get actor. We'll need to add an actor pin into this, so we could call this here target actor, and then that can be of type actor and then object reference, and then we can say get actor location there, and then compile and save that. So now if we go into this guy's blueprint, the AI's blueprint, and we go to the spawn barrage periodically, that's not going to work anymore. We need to get rid of our location node and then hook up the target actor. And now what that's going to do is every time that event is called to spawn the projectile at a target, it's going to check where the target character is, get their location, and then shoot at the location, instead of shooting at the location of the actor when the whole thing originally started. So let's have a look. There we go. He's dead on. Look at that. He's running around like a maniac and just blasting us, and even killing himself in the crossfire. Good man. That's what AI should be like. Oh my god, what the fuck just happened? I'm guessing that one of those projectiles just clipped my character and just sent me flying somehow before it disappeared. Anyway, that's this tutorial, guys. That's how to create reusable projectiles. So we could give that barrage ability to our player as well, by the way. Like, I might just show you how to do that really quick. It's the exact same thing. So if we just go into our player blueprint, let's just set our repetitions to 10, the barrage interval to 0.1. So maybe we can shoot faster than this guy. And on our right mouse, instead of just spawning projectile, let's grab our projectile spawning ability, and we're going to say spawn barrage, just like that. We need to give it a target actor. See, that's not quite going to work. That's alright. Is there a workaround that we can come up with? I mean, we could do this. Like, we could say get all actors of class. This is a workaround. You couldn't do this for an actual game, but let's say get all actors of class, and this can just be what did we call that guy? Something AI BP. Shooting AI BP. Get all the actors of that class. Get a copy, and we know that he's going to be index 0 because he's the only one in the map. So let's just test our ability. So that's just automatically locking onto him like that. So I don't even have to aim, because it's just going to shoot straight at him. If you wanted this to be realistic, you'd need to use the location one that we set up before. So maybe you could have a variant here. So instead of spawn, you could have a spawn barrage using the location. You could have a spawn barrage using the actor to target at, and you could have the player using the one with the location. And the location will just be wherever the forward vector is of your camera, so that you have to manually aim instead of it just automatically doing it. Or what you could do is you could invent a lock-on system, so you could maybe press a button to switch between targets of all the potential AI around you. And then what this will do is it'll lock on to whichever one you've had selected, and then you can fire the barrage at that particular AI. There's a number of different ways that you can do this, and you can add this to any AI that you want. Like, you could even make this friggin' door here just shoot projectiles at you if you wanted. So if we got rid of this guy right now, and then just cracked open this door BP, like that, is we could have, where's our begin play? Our begin play up here, if we just give this a projectile spawning component. Because I just want to show off how how easy it is to reuse this into other things. So we could just say spawn projectile at target like that, and this is going to be get actor location of the player character. You can stop watching the tutorial at any time if you want, guys. I mean, you've already learnt everything that I'm going to show you, I think. But just for you that are bored and want to learn how to just do stupid shit, let's just have some fun. Projectile speed 2500. Spawn point, we'll give him a spawn point really quick. So we'll just add in a scene component, just like that. SP for spawn point, move that up a little bit, something like that. Drag that in, and that should be good to go. We need to just add in a loop. So if we just go delay, like that. Every 0.2 seconds, spawn a projectile at the character. Alright, now our door is going to be a violent shooting AI. There we go. And he'll still unlock as well. Let's have a look at this. Get the key. Boom, in we go. Fuck, you can make some weird shit. Alright, I might just delete that. I'll do that after the tutorial ends. That's it, guys. I'm going to leave that one there. Let me know if you have any questions about this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.